What's up, everybody, and welcome to Read the Bible with me. I'm Stan Jr., and today we're looking at 1 Samuel chapter 13. If you're new here, go ahead and click subscribe to this channel and turn on your notification bell. And if you are a Bible Club member, that's somebody that supports the ministry each month with $10 so that we can send Bibles and missionaries around the world through an organization called Voices of Martyrs. That was long. If you're one of those, go ahead and like this video and leave a comment below. I'm so appreciative of your support, and we really can't do ministry without your support, so thank you. Let's get started with chapter 13. It says Saul was blank years old. We really don't know how old he was when he began to reign, and he reigned however many in 2 years over Israel. Saul chose 3,000 men of Israel. 2,000 were with Saul in Michmash and the hill country of Bethel, and 1,000 were with Jonathan in Gibeah of Benjamin. Jonathan was Saul's son, and we learn more about Jonathan, of course, being best friends with David later on. The rest of the people he sent home, every man to his tent. Jonathan defeated the garrison of the Philistines that was at Gibeah, and the Philistines heard of it. And Saul blew the trumpet throughout all the land, saying, "Let the Hebrews hear." And all Israel heard it, and said that Saul had defeated the garrison of the Philistines, and also that Israel had become a stench to the Philistines, and the people were called out to join Saul at Gilgal. And the Philistines mustered to fight with Israel 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen and troops, like the sand on the seashore, in a multitude. And they came up and encamped in Michmash to the east of Bethaven. When the men of Israel saw that they were in trouble, for the people were hard pressed, the people hid themselves in caves and in holes and in rocks and tombs and in cisterns. And some Hebrews crossed the fords of the Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilead. Saul was still at Gilgal, and all the people followed him trembling. He waited 7 days, the time appointed by Samuel. But Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and the people were scattering from him. So Saul said, "Bring the burnt offering here to me, and the peace offerings." And he offered the burnt offering. As soon as he finished offering the burnt offering, behold, Samuel came. And Saul went out to meet him and greet him. And Samuel said, "What have you done?" Saul said, "When I saw that the people were scattering from me, and that you did not come within the days appointed, and that the Philistines had mustered Michmash." So you see that Saul is getting anxious because he's in fear. People were leaving him. They didn't want to fight. They were afraid. They didn't, the Philistines had started gathering their military. They knew that they were trying to fight them and defeat them. And so Saul is getting afraid and scared, and he's living in fear rather than living in faith in God. And Samuel said, "What have you done?" And Saul said, "When I didn't see you come and people were scattering, I went ahead and did it. And that you did not come within the days appointed, and the Philistines had mustered at Michmash. I said, now the Philistines will come down against me at Gilgal, and I have not sought the favor of the Lord. So I forced myself and offered a burnt offering." And Samuel said to Saul, "You have done foolishly. You have not kept the command of the Lord your God with which he commanded you. For the Lord would have established your kingdom over Israel forever. But now your kingdom shall not continue. The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart, and the Lord has commanded him to be prince over his people." There he gets fired. Saul just got fired for being impatient. Saul got fired for being anxious, not trusting God, because that's what being impatient is. When you're rushing and being anxious, trying to solve all your problems yourself and not just waiting on God to do it, man, that is not trusting God. That's not having your confidence put in God. That's putting your confidence in yourself and what you can do. You got to believe in God. You've got to trust God for the things that you cannot handle, which is pretty much everything. It's okay to over-trust God. No problem with that, right? And so he didn't do that. And because of that, he will no longer be king. God is already looking for his replacement. And so in verse 15, and Samuel rose and went up from Gilgal, The rest of the people went up after Saul to meet the army. They went up from Gilgal to Gibeah of Benjamin, and Saul numbered the people who were present with him about 600 men. And Saul and Jonathan, his son, and the people who were present with him stayed in Gibeah of Benjamin, but the Philistines encamped in Michmash. And raiders came out of the camp of the Philistines in 3 companies. One company turned toward Ophrah, to the land of Shual. Another company turned toward Beth Horon, and another company turned toward the border that looks down on the valley of Zeboim toward the wilderness. Now there was no blacksmith to be found throughout all the land of Israel, for the Philistines said, lest the Hebrews make themselves swords or spears. But every one of the Israelites went down to the Philistine to sharpen his plowshare, his mattock, his axe, or his sickle, and the charge was 2/3 of a shekel for the plowshares of the mattocks, and the third of the shekel for sharpening the axes for setting the goads. So on the day of the battle there was neither sword nor spear found in the hand of any of the people with Saul and Jonathan. But Saul and Jonathan his son had them, and the garrison of the Philistines went out to the pass of Michmash. And that was 1 Samuel chapter 13. I pray that you've enjoyed reading the Bible with me today. God bless you. And until next time, I will see you. We'll be reading chapter 14 of the book of 1 Samuel. Go ahead and click the link below in my description box if you'd like to join us and become an official Bible Club member. I love you. Thank you. And peace.